Alright my fellow agents, welcome back to the Gaming Brigade, and today's video, my friends, is actually a follow-up to one I posted the other day. And today I'm going to continue a series where I highlight a few builds and in my opinion you definitely want to have ready for the start of Year 8 Season 1, and all three of these are based around the Pestilence. Now with that being said, we all know that one major talking point in the community right now is the introduction of prototype gear. A lot of players out there are worried that this is going to make their builds obsolete. That's not going to be the case. And as we get closer to the new season, we will talk about that in more detail once the game shares some new information with us, and hopefully that will be very soon. However, with that being said, regardless of what happens in the future with prototype gear, no matter what, you're going to want at least one of these builds in your loadout because I can promise it will help get you through pretty much every damn thing in the game. Now for all three builds you're about to see, we are using the gunner specialization, doing that for the typical reasons. You get some armor on kill, reload speed increase, access to the Banshee Pulse, you have some extra rate of fire as well. And always remember to make sure you have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're going to get an extra 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. And the reason I say this in every build video is because a lot of players out there, we use the same template for different builds. You don't switch the weapon, then you're leaving weapon damage on the table, and you do not want to make that mistake. Now, needless to say, my primary weapon for all three builds is the Pestilence. This is one of those must-have exotics for every player out there. And the reason this is so effective is because it has the talent Plague of the Outcast. Hits applied to buff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. It stacks up to 50 times. And whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. Now, for those of you out there who do not have this weapon, thankfully it is in the general loot pool. You can farm for it anywhere the LMG is the targeted loot. I recommend hitting up Countdown or the Summit or Retaliation and set your targeted loot to LMGs. As far as the secondary and sidearm is concerned, totally up to you. However, if you do have the quick step, I recommend using that because when that weapon is in your hand, you get an extra 20% movement speed bonus. Now making our way to the gear itself, you can see we're running 4 tipping scales, 1 unit alloys, and the Overdog's gloves. Starting with the mask, it's the first of 4 pieces of tipping scales. We're running 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses. The 2 pieces 30% magazine size, 3 pieces 30% LMG damage, 4 pieces throttle control. Shooting build stacks to a max of 50. Each stack provides 0.5% weapon handling and 4% crit hit damage. Lose 6 stacks per second while not shooting, and no stacks are lost if the enemy is suppressed. Next we have the body armor. It's the 1 piece of unit alloys. That is going to give us an extra 5% rate of fire. And you can see I'm using the named body armor, the Equalizer, because of its talent Perfect Obliterate. Critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 24 times. After that, my friends, we have the holster and the knee pads, 2 more pieces of the tipping scales gear set. And you'll notice I'm doing my best to stack crit hit chance and crit hit damage everywhere I can. Right after that, we have the Overdog's gloves, and these have quickly become one of the most popular exotics in the game. The reason for it is because of the talent weakest link, and that is going to amplify weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemy currently in combat as per the tier hierarchy. These are also in the general loot pool, and just like the Pestilence, you can farm for these anywhere the gloves are the targeted loot. Last but not least, my friends, we have the backpack. That is the 4th and final piece of tipping scales, and because we're wearing a tipping scales bag, we have access to the talent Snowball, and that is going to increase the critical hit damage gain per stack from 4 to 7. Now at this point, we are going to highlight another build you can put together based around the Pestilence. This version has 3 Langmo, 1 Overlord, 1 Petrov, and the Catharsis mask, which is what we're starting with. Now this is, again, another one of those exotics you definitely want to pick up. It is in the general loot pool, just like the Pestilence and the Overdogs, and this has the Talent Vicious Cycle. Taking damage builds stacks to a cap of 30, and each stack is going to grant 1.5% weapon damage. Taking damage at max stacks triggers a purge, removing all stacks and status effects, then dropping a healing cloud which restores 5% of max armor for 10 seconds to all allies in the cloud. Next we have the body armor. It's the first of 3 pieces of Langmo. We're running 3 because we are targeting that 3rd brand set bonus, which is that 30% LMG damage. You can also see we're using the talent Obliterate, where critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. It is not the perfect version. Another great option is Glass Cannon if you want to use that. Next we have the holster, 2nd piece of Langmo. Right after that, we have the knee pads. It's the 1 piece of Overlord, and we're using the named knee pads Fox's Prayer for that middle attribute, 8% damage, 2 targets out of cover. Next, we have the gloves. It's the 1 piece of Petrov. That's going to give us an extra 10% LMG damage bonus, and because we're using Contractor's gloves, we also get that middle attribute, 8% damage to armor. And actually, in regard to the previous build I showed you with tipping scales, if you don't have the Overdogs, you could definitely use Contractors in its place. Last but not least, we have the Backbone Backpack. It is the third and final piece of Langmo, and we are using this for its talent Perfectly Unstoppable Force. Killing an enemy increases total weapon damage by 7% for 15 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Which now takes us to the third and final build of this video. What I've done is the following. We've switched the mask to a piece of Langmo. I've also changed the holster to the named unit alloys holster, the Salvo, because just having this thing equipped is going to give us an extra 10% rate of fire. Once again, we're using Fox's Prayer knee pads as far as the gloves are concerned. For this version, I'm using the Overdogs. If you don't have those, you could once again use Contractors. And I'm trying to think what else. Oh, the skills. Now, typically when I run this build, I'm going to use the combination of the Banshee Pulse and the Fixer Drone, or I also like to use the Booster Hive and the Fixer Drone. It's totally up to you, my friends. Always remember, this is just a template. Take your time, make a build your own. Hope this thing helped you out, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. On that note, I'm going to leave you with some gameplay footage and a few final thoughts. As always, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible continued support. Please let me know of any other questions you have I did not address. Thank you once again for the privilege of your time, and as I mention at the end of every one of these, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone. Alright, so a few things I want to address really quick. First of all, the build you are going to see in the gameplay footage is the tipping scales build, and if I had to choose one out of the three, that'd be the one I'd use nonstop. I mean, that's honestly kind of the one I do use nonstop, but I know people like variations, so I'm just showing you a few other options you do have. I'd also like to mention that in the gameplay footage you're looking at right now, I do not have any global modifiers active whatsoever. I do not have a global event turned on. The main reason for that is to ensure that whenever you see this video, you know exactly what the build can do without any special events taking place. Finally, I want to talk about prototype gear. Now, the reason for that is because we all know that's a major talking point in the community right now, because some people are worried about the fact that prototype gear is going to make their build obsolete. And in my opinion, the answer is no, and here's why I say that. You know, first of all, you're only going to need prototype gear if you are playing the new escalation difficulty, which is going to be behind certain missions. Those are going to be rotating. And if you want a full breakdown to something I posted the other day, I'll leave a link to that in the video description. Now, the concern people have is, what about if you do not have a prototype build and let's say you use matchmaking for a countdown? Are people going to give you the boot? And I don't see that being a major problem, and I say that because you can use a regular build in everything else in the game besides jumping into escalation, so there's really no point in doing that. Now, of course, just because there's no point in doing it does not mean it's not going to happen, right? So I think that based on the feedback that's bouncing around the community, a lot of people really don't see the point of using prototype gear in any way, shape, or form. Look, if you want to farm for it, go crazy. But for me, let's say if I have no desire to, do that grind whatsoever, I'm simply not going to do it. And I can tell you right now, it's not going to have any impact on my gameplay whatsoever. Look, I talked about this here at the channel a bunch. Just last week, I actually got myself to expertise level 30. I think I maybe have one weapon that's at expertise level 30. I'm going to get the Pestilence to expertise level 30. But my point is this, not focusing on expertise did not have an impact on my gameplay whatsoever. I was still able to get everything done in the game. So again, nobody freak out. Everything's going to be good. And please let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. That's all I got for this video, my friends. Thank you once again for everything, and I will see you in the next one.
Pestilence incoming. Detecting additional hostile contacts. Detected. Nearby location. Guarded by hostiles. Heavily armored hostile detected.
Thanks for showing up.
Supply room access unlocked.